What if you could trade high costs and stress for sunshine, waterfront living, and an affordable lifestyle where you feel like you're on vacation half the time? In this video, I am breaking down the top 4 reasons why so many people are moving to St. Petersburg, Florida, from affordable living to an exceptional quality of life and everything in between. You'll find out why this city is quickly becoming one of the most desirable places to call home. Before we dive in, if you're thinking about making St. Pete your new home, or if you're just curious about what this amazing city has to offer, I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Florida in St. Pete. Every week, I have conversations with people just like you who are exploring their next steps. I'm here to help any way I can. The number on the screen goes straight to me. No assistance, no bots, so if you call or text, you'll hear back from me personally. You can find all my contact info down in the description, whether you've got a question or just want to walk through your options. Always happy to help, and that being said, let's dive into the video. Let's start off talking about affordability because it is the #1 driver for people relocating to a new area. The cost of living here is slightly below the US average, making it relatively affordable, especially for a coastal city. We're about 5% lower than the national average. Everyday expenses like utilities, groceries, transportation are about average compared to the rest of the country, and healthcare is actually 8% cheaper. Your average utility bill is gonna run about $200 a month. Fuel is gonna be about $3 a gallon here. So for a city by the water with so much to do, it's nice to pay only average prices. And what really catches people's attention when it comes to affordability here is the cost of housing and taxes. Home prices here are below the national average, so you're gonna pay less here for a house than in most other areas in the US. The median home price in St. Petersburg is roughly $400,000 as of 2025 compared to the national average of about $415,000. And when you compare that to other more expensive places in the country, differences are even greater. In New York, for example, people are paying an average of $875,000 for their homes. California's at $830, Miami's at $645. That's why we tend to get a lot of people moving in from these areas. So if you're looking for a home with proximity to the water, that's relatively affordable compared to the rest of the country, St. Pete could be a good option for you, especially if you're coming in from one of these more expensive cities. I often see people who are able to sell their home where they are and buy something of much higher quality here, and oftentimes even have some cash left over. Now let's talk about taxes. One of the big financial advantages of moving to St. Pete, or anywhere in Florida for that matter, is that we don't pay state income tax here. Florida is one of only 7 US states with 0% income tax. That means that you're not paying any state taxes on wages, salaries, investment earnings, pensions, Social Security. There's also no state estate tax or inheritance tax, meaning that when there's a death in the family, no one pays taxes on the transfer of assets. So if you add all that up, you're looking at significant savings, especially for high income professionals or retirees that are drawing from a 401k or an IRA, which is why Florida is consistently ranked one of the top tax-friendly states in the country, and why people moving here from states like California or New York or New Jersey, where state taxes are high, find it a lot more welcoming here. You also get pretty significant property tax advantages here. We have the Florida-wide homestead exemption of up to $50,000 on primary residences, meaning that if you live full-time in your home, the county lets you exempt up to $50,000 of its market value before they calculate the taxes you owe. We also have the Save Our Homes cap, which basically means that your property taxes are capped at a max 3% increase per year, meaning as your home increases in value, your taxes go up slowly, which is a huge long-term benefit for homeowners in a fast appreciating market. I've seen it many times where homeowners who bought in St. Pete decades ago have tax bills that add up to only a few $100s while their property is worth, say, $500,000. So in the long run, this really does make a big difference. At the beginning of the video, I talked about the cost of living to quality of life ratio here being hard to beat. So let's talk about the kind of lifestyle that people have here. First off, let's talk about the weather. St. Pete is nicknamed the Sunshine City because we get 361 sunny days per year on average. It's basically always sunny here, so if you like sunshine and waking up almost every day to blue skies, I think you'll love it here. The climate is what you call subtropical. So to put it very simply, half the year it's hot and humid, the other half is more mild and dry. And yes, we actually do somewhat have seasons here. For example, during the winter, the temperatures drop down to the mid 60s. Sometimes we even get into the 50s for about a week around Christmas time, which is actually really nice, and then it picks back up. Since it's always sunny, there's always something to do outdoors depending on the season you're in. First off, you'll find some of the country's most amazing beaches here. The most well-known are St. Pete Beach and Clearwater Beach, who've each been ranked #1 beach in the US by TripAdvisor in the past few years. These are huge, wide beaches with soft sands and lots of entertainment options. You'll often see beach volleyball going on, paddle boarding, and if you go down south, closer to the Skyway Bridge, you'll see kite surfers there on a windy day. If you're looking for something more low-key, but just as beautiful, you'll like Sunset Beach on Treasure Island or Indian Rocks Beach further north. These are more laid back and feel a little bit more exclusive. Then if you want to go further out into the wild and get the more untouched, undeveloped experience, you can head to Calidisi Island or my personal favorite, Fort DeSoto. These are chains of islands that go further out into the Gulf with pristine beaches, crystal clear waters. They have hiking and biking trails. You can go kayaking through the mangroves. Boating and fishing are also a huge part of the culture here. We're surrounded by the water. You've got easy access to Tampa Bay, the Gulf, the intercoastal waterway in between. So having a boat here is a huge game changer. Whether you're wanting to go deep sea fishing or diving or explore remote islands that are only accessible with a boat. Besides the beaches, there's seriously a ton of outdoor stuff to do in and around St. Pete. Like if you're into biking or jogging, you'll love the Pinellas Trail. It's this awesome 75-mile trail that goes all the way from downtown St. Pete up to Tarpon Springs. If you're in a Gulf, there's a bunch of golf courses around here, including year-round public courses. You can pretty much play any day of the year because of the weather. And if you're less into golf but want to smack around a ball with some friends, we do have a Topgolf here, which is always fun. The St. Pete Pier is also really nice. They actually just rebuilt it a few years ago and it looks great, really adds a lot to the downtown area. You've got playgrounds and a splash pad that are great for kids. You've got parks out on the water, a little beach. The architecture is really cool. And if you go all the way to the end, you've got a bar and restaurant called Teak, where you can go see the most amazing sunset view of the St. Pete skyline on one side and Tampa Bay on the other. And finally, what really makes St. Pete complete is that it actually has a real arts and culture scene. It really makes it feel like a real city, not just a tourist town by the water. There are several arts districts downtown with street murals everywhere and so many different museums. There's the Dali Museum, home of the largest collection of Salvador Dali's work outside of Spain. Highly recommended if you like his painting. You've also got the Museum of Fine Arts, the Imagine Museum if you're into incredible glass art, and the Mauryan Art Center, which hosts the famous Chihuly collection. Honestly, I could go on and on about how much there is to do here. I've only talked about the tip of the iceberg really, but the point is you'll pretty much never run out of stuff to do, and St. Pete has become more of a complete city in recent years. Whether you're looking for water sports, more laid-back coastal vibes, or a more urban metropolitan experience. Another key aspect of St. Pete that attracts both homeowners and investors is the strong real estate market here. Now, let me back up a bit and say that at the current time, we are definitely seeing the market cool down compared to a few years ago, and prices have started going flat or declining. But what's interesting about St. Pete is that it was able to retain home values from the insane boom that we saw in the early 2020s. Let me explain. The St. Pete Clearwater area is one of the areas in the country that skyrocketed the most during the pandemic years when home prices went crazy because everyone was relocating to places like Florida and Texas. During that time from 2020 to 2022, home prices saw a 41% increase in those 2 years. That is crazy. To put things into perspective, home prices historically increase around 3 to 5% a year over the long term. Those 2 years alone saw close to 20% increases each year in this area. Now, of course, that kind of growth isn't sustainable, so we now have seen prices stabilize, meaning that pretty much since 2023, housing prices have remained flat in the St. Pete Clearwater area. But what's remarkable about that is that if you compare other cities that also saw huge price increases during the pandemic years, like Austin, Texas, or Boise, Idaho, those cities have now seen major price declines of more than 20%. So instead of having a sharp rise followed by a sharp fall, St. Pete had a sharp rise and stayed more or less at the top. I should add that we have seen some parts of the market in St. Pete where prices have declined significantly. However, if you look at the market as a whole, globally speaking, prices have held up relatively well. And that's probably due to the supply and demand dynamics of the St. Pete Clearwater area. So if you look at a map of Pinellas County, you can see right away we're surrounded by water, meaning there's no possibility to build anywhere except north. And if you do go north, you get to a different county called Pasco County. So Pinellas County can't really expand outwards, and there isn't a lot of vacant land left to build on within the county. You drive around here, you won't see massive acres of vacant land because almost everything has already been built on. Actually, Pinellas County is the most densely populated county in Florida, so builders don't have many options, meaning that housing inventory is restricted, and that creates upward pressure on prices. And lastly, on the demand side, you have people moving here like crazy. So just recently, Florida surpassed Texas as the #1 state in the US, seeing the highest net population growth. In 2024, Florida had a net migration of 475 people, meaning that after factoring in all the people that came here and all the people that left, Florida had 475,000 more people than in 2023. When you combine that with a limited housing supply, you get a strong real estate market. The last reason I want to get into is the strong job market and economic growth that we are seeing here. When it comes to economic opportunity here, the Tampa-St. Pete area has one of the best job markets in the country right now. It is booming. The Wall Street Journal ranked us as the 4th hottest job market nationwide in 2023. Tons of new jobs are popping up every year across all sorts of industries, so whatever you're into, there's probably a spot here for you. Unemployment is super low, around 2.6% as of early 2025, which is basically as good as it gets. Plus, average salaries have been going up steadily, about 6% a year in recent years, and now they're averaging over $65,000 a year. So whether you're hunting for a new job or just looking to step up your career, there are plenty of opportunities around here. St. Pete itself has some major Fortune 500 companies and other big employers, like Raymond James Financial is headquartered here, employing around 4,500 locals. Plus we've got big names like JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Fidelity, that all have major offices in town. Jabil is a global electronics manufacturing company headquartered here as well. Healthcare is big too, with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, one of the top children's hospitals, employing about 37,000 people. So whether you're into finance, healthcare, tech, defense, education, hospitality, St. Pete's got you covered. It's become a very stable, diverse economy, not just tourism and sunshine anymore, even though we still do love those things. Now, something else that's very exciting is that St. Pete and Tampa are quickly turning into a tech and startup hub, to the point where people are starting to call it Silicon Bay in reference to Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area. There's a ton of investment happening here. We've seen a 27% jump in tech jobs in just 5 years. And the legendary investor, Cathie Wood, and her firm, ARK Invest, relocated their headquarters from New York to St. Pete. I've actually seen her walking around downtown St. Pete a couple times. All this momentum has sparked a huge influx of young talent, also known as the brain gain. It's actually the opposite of what used to happen about 20 years ago, when college grads tended to move away from the area. These days, most grads want to stick around because of all the opportunities and quality of life here. Plus, Florida having no state income tax and a fantastic lifestyle is attracting tons of remote workers and entrepreneurs. So if you work remotely or you run your own business, you'll feel right at home here. All right, so that was the top 4 reasons to move to St. Pete. I hope you all liked the video. Again, I'm a licensed realtor here in the state of Florida in St. Pete, and I speak with people every week looking to move or sell an existing home here. So if you have any questions about St. Pete or the purchase and sale process here in general, my direct number is on the screen. All those calls and messages go straight to me, so I will be personally replying to you. All my contact info is also down in the description. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.